Tourette's remained silent, but noisily so as tiny spasms of violence rippled through his musculature. Sonny could feel the flammability from a foot away. Man, this guy is wound tight. Sonny soon realized he had been winding up too. Resenting the galling necessity of the journey north, he had pacified himself along the way with visions of a Mayberry RFD-style courthouse presided over by a kindly adjudicator grateful for the fascinating company of a visitor from the city. He had even dared to anticipate it might be over quickly and he could get on with things sooner than later. But that cheerful vision had been a pipe dream. A woman's voice behind his left shoulder began insinuating itself into his awareness. Hasn't worked in a year and a half, so I'm down at the Pancake House 6 a.m. to get that wave of drivers come through Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Meanwhile, we put that together with his unemployment, but still coming up short on rent, and Mimi can't do swim lessons no more. Just trying to have a normal life. What would it feel like to not always be thinking about this shit? I begged the manager for another shift as if I enjoy getting pawed by truckers before sunup. So far, no good, and then Jimmy blows a month's savings on engine work. I know it didn't have to be done. He just wanted it. Man cares more for that rust bucket than for his own daughter. Christ, kill me now. The whole scene was getting old fast. He was starting to jump out of his skin. Suddenly, he felt rodent-like eyes trained on the left side of his face. What's up your ass? Snarled Tourette's. Sonny offered a tight-lipped, insincere grin. It's just, I have things to do. I'm sure everyone here's in the same boat. I don't have jack shit to do, Tourette's responded. But I'll tell you, I fucking hate being here. Rather be burned alive. Weighing the options, Sonny concluded that as unpleasant as traffic court was, being incinerated was probably worse. Chuckling in meek collusion, he expressed this opinion to Tourette's, who leaned toward him. That's your idea of a joke? No. Sonny erased all levity from his voice. It is bad here. He felt Tourette's relax, mollified by his empathy. At last, Gerald Weeks, the tall, stooped prosecutor, sauntered in without so much as a nod of apology toward Judge Grafton. He looked over the assembly like a stockyard man surveying candidates for the abattoir, then finally paid respects to the judge as the room prepared for business. Ladies and gentlemen, Grafton intoned 3 times before most realized he was speaking. Here is how this works. Prosecutor Weeks has already looked over all your cases. Depending on the seriousness of your citation, in many instances he will propose a reduced fine in exchange for your pleading guilty to a lesser offense. You may plead guilty to this court, pay your fine, and be done with this. Or, if you wish to take issue with the judgment, you may plead not guilty, and we will see where the case leads. Jesus Christ, they're practically threatening us to pay or else. Fucking racket. Tourette's made eye contact with Sonny, sharing an instant of aligned disgust. He was now Sonny's best friend in the room. The assembly line began. Chagit Matusowitz, Grafton stammered. No one moved for a moment before a heavy-set Orthodox Jewish man stepped forward. Mr. Matusowitz, driving 83 miles per hour in a 65 zone, recapped Weeks. Your Honor, this is Mr. Matusowitz's only offense in the last 5 years. I move we offer parking on pavement and reduce the fine to $100. Mr. Matusowitz, do you agree? Asked Grafton. The defendant nodded his head eagerly. Please raise your right hand and declare yourself guilty as charged. Matusowitz stared uncomprehendingly for a moment. Do you understand my English, sir? The light bulb went on and his right hand shot up. Guilty, he declared. Very well, replied Grafton. Please step forward to Mrs. Hazelton here on my right. She will receive your payment and give you a receipt. Matusowitz followed instructions, handing the plump, rumpled clerk cash as Grafton returned to his list. Shelley Kahn. And so it would proceed for the next half hour. Only 7 or 8 more defendants could be processed in that time. This is like roulette, thought Sonny with growing alarm. What if they don't get to me till tonight? He watched the defendants gratefully accept reduced fines, then make beelines for Mrs. Hazelton's station, credit cards and checkbooks in hand. No hesitation. They're coughing it right up and saying thanks. The town coffer rapidly filled before his eyes. Low-grade chatter grew among the waiting defendants as the assembly line continued. Grafton's feeble voice became a ghost in the white noise, like wind whistling through the treetops on a gusty autumn night. Fuck, Tourette's editorialized. What if I miss my name? Can't hear a goddamn thing. I've got to get out of here. Sonny attempted to quell his anxiety and relax back into his chair. He wouldn't miss his name. He could barely tolerate the idea of sacrificing a day of his life here, but it was out of his hands. So then Jimmy says, if you don't like it, there's the door. The waitress's voice wafted forward from the row behind. Divorce would be fine with me, but what about the kids? His unemployment checks are already screwed up. Who is she talking to? Did her best friend get busted too? He stole a glance over his shoulder. The voice belonged to a tired-looking woman in her late 20s, probably local. Her tight-fitting jeans stretched to capacity over thick legs. Cream-white cleavage peeked from the unbuttoned top of a sheer lavender blouse. The face was pink and square, the light auburn hair unwashed and straw-like. Her confidant caught Sonny's eye. About the same age, she had a freshness about her. Hair pulled back in a ponytail, ample behind poured into faded jeans. She filled out her lemon tank top like a ripe fruit. Mountain girl. No pinup, but kind of hot. A stab of concern jarred Sonny from fleeting reverie. The surround sound babble was mounting, and Sonny could feel his grip on the situation loosening. This is wrong, he muttered. It's a free-for-all. We're all fucked, agreed Tourette's. Just the way it is. Sonny's mind began to race. Why am I here? What did I do? Minded my business, tried to do the right thing? Sometimes you're wrong just for existing. Now I'm trapped here, about to plead guilty. Guilty to bullshit. I've cut some corners in my day, but you only get nailed for the pettiest bullshit. Assholes. Jesus, I'm turning into Tourette's. Kevin Lawrence Crabtree, Grafton called. The summoned man rose and Sonny lurched impulsively forward to fill the vacating seat. It was several rows closer to the action, improving odds that he wouldn't miss his name being called. From the new vantage point, he could dial in more on the proceedings. A tiny Latino woman stood in front of the judge with her right arm raised. Guilty, she chirped, and performatively sambaed to the end of the pay line. Ronald Monk. A sinewy young man with heavily tattooed arms and body language somehow exuding insolence came forward. He stood before the judge in sullen silence. Your Honor, Mr. Monk was clocked at 105 in a 65 zone, reported Mr. Weeks. 3 priors, 7 unpaid parking tickets. Also in violation of Code 81-2A, illegal cold air intake system. I don't see how we can knock this down. Mr. Monk, anything you wish to share with us on this matter? Asked Grafton. Monk glared at the floor and shook his head. This fine cannot be reduced. Mr. Monk, how do you plead? The young man rolled on the balls of his feet, painted forearms linked by hands clasped over his belt buckle. No money today, he answered. Well, that's an issue, Mr. Monk. We'll have to work something out after this proceeding. Please accompany the bailiff to the waiting room. As the bailiff stepped forward, Monk's soulless eyes shot up to meet his. The swift but subtle gesture was menacing. The bailiff stopped short for a moment before proceeding. Come with me, please. Monk didn't move. Sir, you need to come with me. The defendant's dead fish stare taunted his handler. For a moment the bailiff stiffened, but then the young man's posture slackened as he stepped forward to be led from the room. Bad kid, thought Sonny. First real criminal of the day.